today is a Q&A. So I'm gonna get to your Q's so we can A. Is the game heading in the direction that will actually lead to 1.0? Yes. Well, I mean, yes. It's certainly not heading backwards. So it's heading towards a 1.0, but I can't tell you if that's in 2 years or 20. I don't think it's going to be in 20. Don't worry. Is there a chance they are keeping some content under wraps for when 1.0 happens? If not, what will players who own everything already do? Hopefully play the game. It would suck if your only motivation to play the game was to earn things and then you just bought everything beforehand. You're kind of ruining the game for yourself there. But yeah, there's going to be content that's coming out between now and 1.0 that will make things different. Not to mention, there are things that you can only earn in-game. Not to mention, everything's going to get wiped. So, unless you bought it with real money and it ain't yours, and bless your soul if you've bought everything in the game with real money. Will we see different armor types within a year with the specialist armor? You believe they talked about it recently? Yes, we will see different armor types. Well, okay, I'm not going to confirm that for you. I don't know if we'll see different armor types, but I think we will. They're playing a lot more with damage types, and I do think that they need to get their armor situation figured out by like Squadron 42's release. You'll actually, there's a lot going into armor in this game. Let me see if I can. Yeah, so listen to Richard Tyre here talk a little bit about armor.
Energy, distortion, and chemical, there needs to be a counteract. So, we're going to need armor that has different resistances to provide different encounters. So if you want the combat armor, maybe that's best in class in terms of physical, but maybe in terms of the utilitarian adventurer, that's best in class in terms of energy damage or chemical, because you're going into these harsh environments. And so what we want to do is we want to have these meaningful choices where you're going to these, going to buy armor, and you're having the same decision making, going, okay, should I get that one? Well, that gives me all this stuff. And
yeah, this death count is since 2022.
In the world of physicalized inventory, you're like, well, I can't just get onto the planet and have 20 armors.
We have MS coupon codes. Microsoft? Is there another MS that I missed? CIG's idea of a 1.0 versus players' expectations of 1.0 is going to be very controversial. Well, they're going to put the roadmap out there this summer, probably, so we should be able to set our expectations based on that. But how often does CIG, hit the expectations they set for us? That we'll have to do some calculations ourselves here on stream. Did they not put out a new video mentioning new armor types recently? No, not that I know of. No, I don't think so. Just weapons. Don't you have to start with the starter ship at release because you need to make money before you can activate the big ships because of fixed costs? I mean, you can try and bring your big ships out, and maybe you have enough money to do it, but it might hurt.
You're going to have to make real decisions. And that's where it really ties into the gameplay.
Ray Space, I actually did a poll on my YouTube.
I'll pass over to my esteemed colleague, Jeremiah, and he will continue on some of the visuals.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so that was not very much detail, actually. Here is a poll I did on YouTube. So I just did this poll last week. If you have backed Star Citizen, how much money have you spent so far? Anybody want to guess what the top result is to this? I'll take some hits in chat. You can even tell me if the first one is 1, going all the way down to 2,000 plus, which is 4. Type in the numbers that you think are the highest answered to the lowest answered question. He asked the question. Somebody literally said in the comments, they're like, isn't the first rule of Star Citizen to not ask how much people have spent? And I'm like, no, dude, I'm trying to aggregate some data. I'm trying to get the folks to tell us the details. Also, keep in mind what my audience might be. Like, who are you guys in chat? Are you somebody who has just kind of heard about the game and maybe only spent a starter ship, or have you been following the game for years and possibly spent more money? I know there's plenty of people in all the areas, every one of those, but like majority of people who follow my channel, I think, are a little bit more into the game, not really hovering on the peripherals, but are like hitting the big topics. So I think it skews a little bit differently. But with that being said, here are the results. Number 3 was the top with 27% of the vote, but 2,000 plus 21%. It's pretty wild. And I made sure to specify in here, it is 12 years. So I don't know. It depends on how much you spend on your hobbies, right? But I would say that this used to be the top one, actually, 100 to 500. I would say if you spent $500 over 12 years on this game, that's pretty reasonable, in my opinion. I'm not going to tell people how to spend their money, but for me, yeah, I could see something like that. I mean, I spent probably like $600 to $700 on music production over the course of a couple of years, and I never really went anywhere with it. I had a good time. I enjoyed it. But it's definitely, it changes things when you consider how much time it's been. For some people, it hasn't been very long, but for other people, it has been quite a while. You spent like $50 a year on it with a couple of slightly larger purchases getting you to concierge. Yeah, there's also the fact that some people are subscribed and they just do the monthly subscription, which gets you, a couple little items. It supports the game, blah, 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 yada, yada. And I think that's $10 a month. I think you can do it for, or $20 a month. So if you're doing like $20, $10 a month over the course of a year, then you're already doing $120 in a year. It could get up there. You'd say it's been your main hobby since the beginning, making the future of gameplay in VR? Oh God, I hope VR gets into this game soon. Probably have like 500 in it when all is said and done. Backer since the first week of the Kickstarter, so the amount you spent versus the time is like going out on a weekend night twice a month. No, that's not 227 people. It is 6,000 votes was this poll. You still haven't backed the game? Here you are. I got you in here. Don't worry. But you also see how many people watch the channel that don't back the game. Played WoW for 12 years, $2,160, $15 a month that whole time. It's a long subscription. Do you get a plaque or something? Had a good chat about this in GII the other day. Morals still much cheaper than other bad habits. Well, yeah, you could do worse. That's for sure. Chris Roberts has proven last 12 years that publishers ruin potential classics more than help. I think it can go both ways. Might be controversial, but I do think publishers can do good and also not so good. But self-publishing, if you have the right team and enough time, has proven to be a pretty solid strategy for different companies. We got another question in chat. In the trailers, they show players using transport ships, hopping out of drop ships, or using fighters. How will this happen when every player has their own ship? A lot of players don't want to fly. A lot of players only want to fly for some of the time that they play. I did a video on this last year for supporters, but it came out publicly this year. And if you just type in Space Tomato no ship players, it probably pops up. So this one, or you'll get from this and just this last poll we looked at. I like polls. I love getting data from the community, and I did that for this video. I'll let you just listen to it, and it'll kind of explain. On other ships. So aside from being in a turret, what was the point of being on combat gameplay? Players in the future might not have all limitations because you don't have VTOL engines. We aren't experiencing malfunctions, more in-depth weather systems blowing us around, hazardous and toxic atmospheres, or more serious security requirements. As the game is right now, things are fairly easy to get around in a ship. So it's understandable to assume players in the future might not be as keen to always be flying. And since the persistent universe began, the main draw of the game has been the flight model and combat gameplay. That is, I think, a really key point. We've been playing since 3.0, we've had like 27 major updates, 25 major updates, something like that. And for that entire time, up until 3.18, the only things you could do that were mission-based and reliably updated were mining, cargo hauling, and combat. Combat was both ship and ground. But like if you look at those three main things we had, there were other things you could do, but they were kind of peripheral. Those three main things, mining, okay, that's good, but it's kind of like, not only do you have to get a special ship for it, it's also not everybody's cup of tea. Cargo hauling, basically broken, pretty boring for a lot of that time. So combat's been like one of the biggest things they've always used to market. And if you look at the trailers that we've been looking at, you can see everything is shooty, pew, pew all the time, all the freaking time. I talk about this quite a bit. You can just like go to any trailer, and there's probably people shooting at other people. Let's go to the next trailer. What's in here? Anybody shooting at people? Hey, what do you know? Let's go to the next trailer. What is this? 3.12? What's going on here? Anybody shooting at people? Just gonna click some random place. Nope, I was wrong. That was he was doing tractor beam stuff. How about here? Hey, look, shooting at people. All right, 3.13. Oh, underground infancy. You see that? Did you see that mining in the thumbnail? Is it mining? No, look, it's some guy getting shot in the head in the beginning of the trailer. Okay. How about 3.14? Welcome to Orison. Cool. A new city, very peaceful, very calm. What's this? Oh, more combat. So like, just constant combat, and it makes people think that the combat is a big part of this game because they haven't developed all the industrial stuff. So that on its own, I think, has skewed the game towards more combat as of right now. Anyways, let's continue listening to this idiot here if he makes a point. Other than that, game mechanics have barely existed outside of fetch item missions and combat variations. There never was anything for players to do other than shoot at other players on other ships. Just so could have just waited for that. What was the point of being on a multi-crew ship? All right, get to the what the out there. I know, I did the research. Here we go. I asked in a poll how players would want to spend their time in the future. All right, so basically for this poll I ran, I asked folks, how much of the game are you thinking you're going to be playing? Like, how will you balance your playtime in the past, or in the future, sorry, when the game is wherever you want it to be? I said one choice is 100% piloting ships all the time. Another choice is mostly piloting, but staying on your foot, playing crew, going into FPS situations, stuff like that. The other choice was 50-50. 50% piloting, 50% not piloting. Another choice was mostly on foot. And then finally, the last choice was 100% on foot. And whether on their own 2 feet running missions and getting involved in other types of gameplay, or piloting ships. And between Reddit, Twitter, and YouTube, obviously include. So you can see here that on Reddit, they said mostly piloting was the top choice. But if you actually count the numbers, you'll see that 50% or more of being on foot is more popular than, well, I guess no. If you say 50% or more being on foot, it's still not as popular as 50% or more on ships, but like it's getting close. And you can kind of see that a little bit of skew here too. Obviously, I couldn't throw in that 50-50 option on Twitter because Twitter is dumb. And then on here, 50-50 actually takes the most of the votes on YouTube, which is where I get most votes. I think that was 2,000 votes on here. Oh no, Reddit got 5,000 votes. Wow. But overall, you can see there's plenty of people who aren't going to be flying all the time. And there are things that have to do with these ships, like engineering, control surfaces, your ship overheating, or possibly the fact that you just like don't want to fly and you just want to go do other gameplay. A lot of reasons to not fly ships in this game. And they've focused on that. Emphasized it quite a bit. Question. Are there any things you wish they would focus more on in terms of gameplay, such as something they mentioned years ago? Oh God. Is there not? For anyone? Yeah. Yes. You just heard me rant about the combat. I could use less combat in my life, but you know, combat's cool. Like, don't get me wrong, I like combat. I just didn't join Star Citizen for combat. I played Doom for combat. Yeah, I would love if they focused more on data as a commodity, but that's like one of the furthest off things that they can do, because they got to get all the non-data stuff working first so that the data can actually represent something, I guess. Will great locations like Delamar and Levski Port also be brought back once the game is out of alpha or beta? Levski and Delamar are in the Nyx system, which is our 3rd star system. That's the 3rd system we'll be seeing in Star Citizen. Nyx is actually going to be a pretty good system for us because it's not as lawless as Pyro, but it's still more dangerous than Stanton, and it's going to offer some pretty interesting balances and reputation stuff. You'll find Nyx here. It's unclaimed. You see it is connected to the Castra Odin and Pyro system. What the heck is this system? And Virgil? It's connected to a Vanduul system? Oh, maybe that's how we get into Vanduul space. I didn't even consider Virgil was that close. Did y'all know Virgil was that close? Holy crap. Look at how long that jump gate is. That's wild. So, just for reference, we're in the Stanton system here, and our second system is Pyro here. Our third system is Nyx right here, and Odin is in Squadron 42 here. So, we kind of are moving in this direction a little bit. Vega is also slightly in Squadron 42. So it also connects to Virgil, as you can see. So if we get Vega and Odin shortly after Squadron, I'm not as sure about Vega. Virgil could be that first alien system they add to the game. It'd be fitting, because having a Vanduul system early on would be great for Project Operation Pitchfork. But yeah, we're over here, and we'll probably be seeing the Terra system before any Vanduul systems. I see a question from Don't Kill Barry. One thing that makes Elite Dangerous Universe feel so big is it takes a while to move across the universe. Will the jump points emulate this, or will they let you travel as far as you want? This game's going to feel big. We went over this last week, I think, during another Q&A. If you look at the Stanton system and you think about how long it takes to get across Stanton, say you're going from Microtech to ArcCorp, that's like, on average, a 15-minute quantum jump, right? I might be wrong. Obviously, there's a lot of different quantum drives, different speeds that it'll take you, but I feel like an average for players would be around 10 to 18 minutes, maybe a little bit shorter. That's a long jump. It's probably short. It's probably more like 10 minutes, but it's a long jump. You're not meant to make this jump very often. Now, if you zoom out, you'll see that going to the Magnus jump point is even further. So consider maybe if you're doing an interstellar trade route and you've got to go from, I don't know, the Terra system to the Pyros. No, let's say the, well, let's say you're going from Pyro to Terra. And, nope, Pyro connects to Terra. Okay, let's say you're going from Pyro to Magnus. So you'd have to come in here. I actually don't think those are too far apart. Yeah, they're not too far. Either way, quantum travel takes a little while, right? And if you look at the Stanton system, it is about 4 or 5 AU in diameter, I think, 5 AU. Now, if you go to another system like Ellis over here that's right next to it, and you look at this one, it's 101 AU. So if it takes 10 minutes to get across Stanton, which is 101 AU, then let's say you wanted to like fly across the Ellis system from this planet over here over to, oh, I forgot there's this planet right here that's off axis. Way out there. Let's say you wanted to fly out to Pinecone. That's like 30, 40 minutes of quantum travel. And not everybody has to do that, but if you're an explorer, if you're a cargo hauler, if you're looking for that really off the beaten path gameplay, these larger systems are definitely going to take a lot longer to travel around. So yeah, it'll feel big, not as big as Elite Dangerous. That game's freaking massive. But it'll feel kind of big. When can we see a system with Earth? That's a while. That's the Sol system, and that is here. Way over here. Compared to Stanton, which is all the way over here. So we got a while. Do we know the quantum jump speed yet? It's not the same as quantum travel. You talk about jumping. Like the actual jumping. Jumping is not a physical transition. It's a wormhole. It's a folded space. So you're not actually traveling. That's why in the lore of Star Citizen, in order to speak to other star systems, you actually have to give someone a message or the info and send them to a jump point in order to get that stuff to the other system. Because the actual distances between these two systems are freaking huge. They're massive. And it would take forever for normal light waves to travel that far. So the jump point is literally folding space and connecting you from one system to another. That's not really going to take a while to make that transition. Maybe a minute or two. How would you feel about CIG gating new star systems behind DLC after 1.0? I would hate it. That sounds awful. Absolutely would hate if they did that. Do we have any ships that jump that far? No. They're going to be rebalancing this stuff as we get larger systems. And some of the lore will dictate, or some of the lore will change. This stuff will be balanced. Some of these systems will not be as big as they seem, or as they show in this map. this is all lore, but obviously they need to balance it and make sure it's good for gameplay. So this system's pretty big too. This one's a little different from Ellis because most of the planets are like really close up here. You can see there are 3 planets just like right next to the star. So this should be really interesting for explorers. You know, if we're looking at solar flares and pyro, what kind of effects are we going to get from this? But then you zoom out. So you got plenty of planets here in the green band. I think 4 or so. And then you keep zooming out. You got more planets way out here. You keep zooming out, and there's even more planets way out here, and you keep going, and there's more planets, and this just keeps going. And some of these freaking systems are just stupidly large. But imagine if you made the Killian system your home, and like every 2 weeks you had to make a cargo run from the inner system all the way out to Killian 9 or 14. Sorry. That's the kind of scale they can build into the game for people who want more long-term stuff. And this one's 194 AU. Again, that could be rebalanced, but 200 AU compared to 5? It's a lot. This map is on robertspaceindustries.com/starmap. It's the ARC star map if you just Google that. Do you think the Kellogg system with quarter deck will make it into 1.0? I don't know what quarter deck is. But I don't think the Kellogg system will be in 1.0. No, it's very far away compared to the other planets or the other systems we're looking at. Kellogg is... God, I just saw it. Just makes me think of cereal too. I think that 1.0 won't consist of more than like 5 or 6 systems, and they will all probably be right around Stanton. Crack snap will pop. Oh my gosh. What a commercial. That lives on my brain. There it is. Yeah, Kellogg is, I mean, it's connected to Odin, but I don't think it's an important system for them to add for 1.0. What systems we'll be seeing in Squadron 42? Vega and Odin. Most likely. Stretch goal says 100 systems at launch. Yeah, that's not happening. Stretch goal was made before they changed the game. This whole star map was made before they changed the game. The game that is currently being made, or the game that was planned when they set out for the 100 systems, was essentially like the game that Star Wars Outlaws is, where you fly between planets and then you hit a loading screen and then you're down on the planet and you basically can only go to that city. That was the idea. They weren't planning on having planets that you could explore and land on anywhere, so they changed up their scale quite a bit from that. What's the probability that they showcase systems other than Pyro at CitizenCon? I think Nyx could get a show. We've seen some Nyx already. Obviously, Delamar comes from Nyx, but if we do a quick search here, they have shown Nyx footage quite a few times over the years. Okay, a few times. We got some height maps. They're just kind of playing around with height map palettes and designs and stuff for the system. We got to see some of the foliage that they were working on for Nyx. This is all in 2021. Funny enough, you can see the emissions for... I think these are still the ship emissions, but on FPS you were getting emissions readings back in 2021 here on the dev build. Here are some Nyx height maps that they were practicing with to see how they could figure out some of the more old mining area biomes that they have in that system. Because it was a heavily mined system until people kind of mined everything and left. And then finally just some, rocks, really, which probably got applied to other planets in Stanton already anyways. How many years do I think it would take to get to 100 system? Like 30? I don't know. We don't know how fast they're going to make systems yet. Could get a lot faster with the tools that they're building for planets. But it's always the landing zones and factions that are going to take a while. The long jumps and long missions are going to require sessions that extend past what the ship owner can do on their own, so the ship will have to have a permanent crew and remain in game. We don't exactly know if they'll have to remain in game. It's possible that you could log off on the ship and then come back in later. Because of beds, because of whatever abilities they create. But I do think they're addressing the idea that people will need to have other players on their ship. They're building a lot of tools to emphasize doing things that don't require flying ships. I think over the last 10 years, they've gotten really, really into this pocket of people believing that Star Citizen is all about flying the ships. And now I think they have the big task ahead of them of showing that it's not. It's about living in space, and flying the ships is just one part of that. And a lot of that comes from things like engineering and investigation missions and reputation and interaction with AI and FPS AI and all that kind of stuff. Mining, refining, caves, rivers, lakes, building interiors, underground facilities, just a lot of stuff that don't require spaceships at all. So I think as that stuff gets more popular, people will start to realize it's not just about flying. Being crew is also part of the game. And if you don't like being crew, then, you know, hopefully their whole idea of SimPod still stays true, and you could just hop in a SimPod on your ship and play some Arena Commander while you're quantum traveling. They've been telling us that our ship needs to become its own character, so you think implication that means the ship needs to remain capital ships, mind you. The ships need to remain, yes, but there are things to do on that ship. That's kind of what they're leaning towards. MT Sim flight chairs is what people have been talking about. Did they just drop this today? Ooh, the jump point is out. Monster Tech's chairs are pretty sick, but I will say this: if you don't need okay, I can't say this because I haven't actually used a Monster Tech chair yet. We're working on getting one. But I will say this: they are specialized chairs. Like, these are built very custom, obviously, as you can see here, for different attachments and parts to be put on them. So, like, unless you're looking to specialize your chair for some custom gameplay, there are other options for sure. But it looks like they are doing a little partnership, little thing, promotion with Star Citizen and Monster Tech, who again makes a lot of these custom-made chairs for things like HOTAS and stuff to get in, and they're branded on companies from the game. So don't get a specialized chair if you don't need one. But merch. They tried this one time with a HOTAS. They were going to partner with SciTech to make a HOTAS for players. I bet we could find that. Thank God it didn't come out, because it would have been so outdated by the time the game came out. It got killed once Logitech bought HOTAS, or bought SciTech. Yeah, so this was it. It was based on the X65, which is, you know, still produced by Logitech. But this special one they were making for Star Citizen did not end up happening. And again, that's probably a good thing. Was I able to participate in any server meshing testing, and do I think they can polish it until 4.0 for a wider audience? I briefly took part in server meshing testing. We've been super limited in our ability to play and get online and stuff over the last 5 months or so since we got back here. And that's all wrapping up with hopefully this internet coming in tomorrow. So I didn't get to spend too much time on the 4.0 test, just like 20-30 minutes. I do think it'll keep getting polished up until release, though. Question: why do personal lights suck so bad? Like flashlights? You have a handheld flashlight that will fill a cave with light, but 900 years into the future, we've lost LED and can't see. Oh, you mean in game? I thought you were just asking me about flashlights in real life, man. I can make you a couple suggestions. Fisher Price makes a great flashlight. Super, super nice to look at. Very friendly, user-friendly, intuitive, got good colors. Also, you could go with a normal flashlight too. Which is probably better idea. The lights in this game are rough. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that it's different teams who are not quite focused on that part of the game just yet that have equal parts control over that kind of thing. You've got the gameplay people who want flashlights to be able to light things up. And then you've got the art people who realize that, you've got the art people who want the lights to be able to light things up and make things look pretty. And then you've got the engine people who are like, the more things you light up, the slower the game runs. And since our game is not optimized, that's difficult. So it's kind of a tug of war over whether or not lights should be good enough to light up a ton of stuff right now, or if they should, wait until the game's in a better place to be able to do that. And they have slowly started to make lights brighter and more powerful and place them in better places, but I don't think overall that's going to really get honed in until we start polishing the game overall. beta, whatever that is. How do I think is going to be the inventory interaction when looting bunkers? Couldn't find anyone talking about it yet. Yeah, that's because nobody knows. I haven't been able to play 3.24, so I don't even know what it looks like when you do that. I'm assuming they're still going to have exterior inventories accessible for the boxes. But yeah, they're going to have to come up with some kind of an interface that allows you to loot into a container, because you can't just loot guns into your backpack and then move them from the backpack into the container. Your backpack's too small. So that's a little bit of a problem. I don't know the answer to that one though. A gross cash grab? My brother, it's a chair. What do you mean gross cash grab? You can charge whatever the heck you want for a chair. There's tons of extras that you can get that don't have the marketing stuff on them. I don't even know how much a Monster Tech chair costs normally. Let's see. I should know that. I think it's like 700 or so. Yeah, so their normal chairs are around 800 bucks. Looks like they get up to around $1,000, 1,000 plus. These are obviously not the ones that they're selling with the marketing stuff, but like that's not that crazy. What is that, a 20% markup for the deal, for the branding? I don't know, man. The way I see it, like, I would much rather them be charging that much for a chair that's optional and some kind of thing with a third party so-and-so than for more ships. But, you know, we'll get both. Can your friend spawn into the multi-crew ship because if you're out somewhere far away in space and your crew went offline and don't have time to come online? Yeah, I don't know. The logistics of logging on and off in this game are very up in the air. They just kind of spun it all on its head just like a month or two ago when they said that basically you're going to be able to log on and off anywhere in the game. Don't know what that means, but it doesn't limit you to beds. So how people can log on and off from ships that are owned by other folks that may or may not be online is up in the air. But I think maybe we'll get some insight into that with the hangars. Maybe if you can access people's hangars because they've given you permission when they're not online, that could, I don't know. Because those also have to be spawned and instanced and stuff. How will the galaxy spaces work when traveling between star systems? Like, will it put you in a random world space when you enter, or will it assign the player to their own galaxy space? Yo, are you creating new terms for CIG to market at us? I don't want to see them start talking about galaxy space or something like that. The space in between systems is a jump point, or a jump tunnel. So that'll look like... It'll look something like this. Probably with slightly different art and effects. But it's just going to be a tunnel like this that you have to fly through and maneuver and not run into the sides of the tunnel. And this is basically warping space and time to eventually get you to... a new star system! Which we've been waiting so long for. And if you fall out of the side of the tunnel, it's supposedly you're lost in deep space. I don't know how that's going to work, but that is the idea. There is a risk to making that jump between two systems. That being said, I think autopilot is supposed to work on the more traveled ones. What do I think we will see at CitizenCon this year? A lot of talk of their more endgame development stuff. Now that they are... If they can get server meshing out before CitizenCon, then they basically have completed their 8-year milestone, which server meshing has come up at every single CitizenCon. Just about, either server meshing or pyro, since 2017, 2018. So the fact that they're going to complete that means CitizenCon has to pivot. Their idea of the marketing and the goals they set have to pivot, and I think that's why they started talking about 1.0. That's why they've introduced base building. That's why they're talking about crafting. Those are the sorts of things I think we're going to start seeing at CitizenCon this year. And the Nix system. And yeah, I think the Nix system would be a mention. Either way, even if Pyro's not out by then, they need to start talking about the third system. Question. You haven't seen which HOTAS will be compatible with the chairs. You have Wing Orion 2 HOTAS stick and throttle, 96 binds between the two, and it's still not enough. I think they have I think they have a thing that talks about you can also like, yeah, these mounts I think are universal. No, they're not. You have to buy certain mounts for certain sticks. It's a whole thing. Yeah, so you can see you've got all the different things here. Here's your Wind Wing. I don't know if you said that was what you had. Wind Wing Orion 2. Yeah, it's right here. So you just select the right one, you pick the color you want, and there you go. These chairs are expensive as hell, and they always have been. Monster Tech is aiming for a certain type of market. And you can mount them on the sides rather than the cutout. But this is what the cutout is for. If you wanted to have your joystick in the center, which, you know, they do. You can kind of emulate the ship that you like. Let me see if they did this. Nope. Day 2. If I can find the right panel, the right spot in the right panel. Here we go. So, like some of the ships that are more dogfighter based have the joystick in the middle, so it does, obviously you can get some of that connectivity with it. This is also kind of important. They want you to get that feeling of being in the cockpit, so they're actually changing the default way that you get into the ship, where instead of just getting in and grabbing, you kind of sit back, you can look at your cockpit, take it in.
So you can see now that you won't directly grab the control stick. You'll be put onto this relaxed pose with free look enabled, and you can see the different prompts appear over the buttons. So let's get this show started and get your ship ready for flying. So Brent, if you could close the canopy so we don't go flying around with that open.
So yeah, if you wanted to have a central stick, in some situations it can feel pretty cool, but
look at that.
that's very much a preference thing.
And finally, turn our entrance. Yeah, so you are now ready.
For that kind of money, you get a Herman Miller. Hey, man, to each their own. Not that many people have the equipment for that center cutout. They actually have a piece that you can just put in there if you decide you don't want that. Oh yeah, you can build full-on sim cockpits. Like this is pretty intense stuff that they make. Like this company goes hard on the flight sim materials. So there is a chair cutout that you can put in the center there in order to fill it in if you decide you don't want it. Somewhere here on the store. Question. Do you think the Hull C will have its trading loop fixed? Right now the profit margins are terrible and docking and loading is a gamble. I don't know. I don't think the Hull C is going to be fixed for 324, unfortunately. I hope so, but I don't know. Now all the other ships are getting onto the same system as the Hull C in terms of like timed loading and stuff, so maybe they'll all be updated together too, and the Hull C can see a fix there. Question. Like base building, will they also add space station building in the far future? They're talking about the possibility. In fact, we're already on the video where they talk about that. They've talked about the possibility. They're not quite... They're not saying they're going to do it, but maybe it'll be possible. I'm sure there are a lot of logistics involved there. Prerequisites.
All right. Planning ahead and
Nah, maybe they don't
with
say
that,
it here.
You need to fix trading post. The next with that.
I do not remember where they talk about it, but they've mentioned it as a maybe. Question, do you think the Galaxy will get a combat module? It looks and feels like a combat ship that was stripped down. The Galaxy? No, I think the Galaxy's combat-focused brethren will probably handle that, the Perseus. Question, whatever happened to personal hangars and asteroids? They'll come back. It's just one of those things they haven't gotten around to. Asteroid facilities are on the docket. And we've actually seen one tease of them. Just one. At CitizenCon 2022. See if it's on the roadmap. Progress tracker. Asteroid facilities. Adding new asteroid facilities to the persistent universe. Handcrafted traversable areas offering different gameplay opportunities both in the interior and exterior of asteroids. Saw plenty of work from the EU Sandbox team, but Obviously, there's still more work to do. If you go back to CitizenCon 2022 and check out the partnered development show, when they show off the quantum boost functionality, which I think was the last thing I was looking at here. Yep. Once they get to their destination, you kind of see this asteroid-looking thing.
From Yogi on the quantum boost mechanism, because you're just going to have to stay in the zone to keep in boost, otherwise you'll fall out of boost. But we've gone over to the planet here. So what it's allowing.
So here's
you to
just
do
like
is
the
sort of have
one
that-
tease we get, and you know it looks kind of like Grimhex, but I do think this is part of the work that they're trying to do to get some kind of more interactive asteroid stuff into the game. With resource management and capital ships coming soon, do you think we will see AI NPC crew? Not soon. Maybe in the next couple of years. Maybe it'll be soon. No, whatever happens with server meshing is going to dictate what goes on. Server meshing could come out and just completely rewrite the game, and it could be really good, and we could all be singing praises for the rest of the year and, you know, jumping around in a circle, kumbaya, but also could be miserable. Could take multiple patches for it to get any good. And then once it finally gets good, it could be that there's more stuff they have to do with AI to make it work. Question from Almighty Fox. What alien race do you think we will see in game first? Either the Banu or the Vandal. Probably the Vandal. Question from I Am Toast. Do you think we will be able to play as another species or just humans? I think maybe someday in the distant future we might be able to play as another species. But I think that really changes things up if they do that. Now, they do say that the aliens all look fairly similar in terms of being bipedal, because it helps not only with animations and stuff when it comes to ships that they're building, but also, obviously, anything that happens in the game is pretty much able to be transferred over to alien bodies. So there's a chance they're planning on it. But who knows if it'll happen. Yeah, the Tavaran are part of the UEE. So they might get added in there too somewhere. We got a question marked from Essential over on YouTube. How much backlash will CIG get once they rebalance the economy? People really seem to be against long money grinds. Probably the normal CIG sized backlash. No matter if they change something, there will be backlash. And when they change the economy, it'll be painful. It already is painful. It's going to be a gradual thing. But, you know, there's a lot of things in this game that are going to be done that'll get backlash that are good for the long term of the game. You know how many comments I've gotten about 3.24 that it's going to kill the game, that Star Citizen is going to fade away and people are going to leave and CIG is going to regret how many folks put the game down forever because the cargo changes. And I'm like, yeah, but what about all the people that are going to pick up? And also, people make things out to be worse than they actually are in their head, I think. It'll be painful, but will also create value for ships that should have more value. Value for everything. Nothing has value. Question from Don't Kill Barry. Will there be unexplored and uninhabited systems to explore? Uninhabited, yes. Oh, everything's unexplored. At the age that Star Citizen is, most of the space in most of the star systems have not been explored. Don't listen to the people that tell you, 20 systems. Never be able to explore everything. It's not true. Star Citizen's not a safe place. People haven't explored most of the space in most of these systems. Not only are there unclaimed systems like Cathcart or Min or Nyx even or Tanga, which granted people can live there, but y'all heard how big I said some of these systems are, right? Like this system is 200 AU. I'm not even going to do the math to calculate how much actual space that is. Imagine how many different asteroids, space stations, shipwrecks, little things they could place throughout all this space. to put content in there to find and explore. Question. Mobutu. What is the definition of a balanced economy? Probably one that makes you feel like you're constantly in pain, constantly chasing the next dollar, and never really certain if you're going to survive over the next couple weeks. Or is that just the real world economy? I think a balanced economy, it will be balanced. Yeah, I don't know what a definition of that is. Something that allows for, change, supply and demand. We're supposed to represent 1/10, 10% of the total flow of economy in this game. So obviously, it's not like we're going to sell some material and completely change everything. But the idea is that you can make small differences here and there. So as long as you can be a player that feels those kinds of small differences, or at least sees the consequences of other people's differences, and it's not obviously heading in a downward spiral world where UEC is losing its value, then I think they'll always be balancing it, Never get perfect. Carpathian Forest asked the question, will CIG create portable NPC piloted ship carrier for faster ship transport across the verse for a fee? Indeed. Indeed, my friend, they will. Let me introduce you to the Star Citizen Anvil Liberator, which players will use to transport ships a lot. But the design of this ship, the goal of this ship, the purpose of this ship is to transport other ships. It's a ship transporting ship because, yo, dog, we heard you like f***ing ships. Now, and if NPCs are going to be flying passenger transports, which I do think they should make a capability in Star Citizen, then I think they should also be able to fly ships and vehicles. For one, because it makes things easier. But also because imagine if you could just go onto your mobile Spectrum app and type in that you want your ship transported from one place to another, and an NPC can pick it up for you. Doesn't mean it's safe, right? There's a risk to that. You're sending your ship on a physicalized trip through space where it could be pirated. And that's something you have to consider. That's all speculation, by the way. But I do think that we'll be able to have our ships transported, whether by players or by NPCs. Question. I am Toast. Got it again. Do you think that the Caterpillar will function well with the new cargo update? You're worried since the side elevators don't work and the trap beam placement is kind of meh. Yeah, I think it's going to suck, to be honest. Not fixing that elevator is unfortunate, but I know it's a very difficult problem for them. I do think that there's going to be quite a bit of pain with specific ships given the cargo system right now until they get fixed. Liberator looks like it has a smaller ship capacity than Ironclad. No, it has 2 decks, which actually helps it out quite a bit. I think you can fit 2 small ships on here because the Ironclad is working with a cargo space instead of a ship space, so it's not pre-designed to fit ships. You might be running into some barriers or some problems with the closing door on top. The Liberator's top ship landing pads are the size of the Ironclad's interior. It is a big ship too. That's something that you're not really seeing too much of here. This one kind of shows it. Like the size of this tank compared to the entire ship. You got a good amount of space here. Hello, good vibes. With a question. Do you still think we will get Titan suit in Squadron 42 and SC? I think we will get it in Squadron. Don't know about SC. Maybe someday. I think Paul Shelley will be wildly disappointed if we don't get it in Star Citizen. By scale, the Ironclad is the same size, but with the Liberator, you can use more of its length and possibly also width. Yeah, the Ironclad's got more stuff going on the inside. I don't think they fixed the command module problem. No. It is not playable in Squadron 42. Have they said that? We can't actually use the Titans. We can only see them. What was the name of the CO very big ship that you don't know what it does? The Pioneer builds bases. Question from Liam7. You had a revelation. Couldn't you use a Legionnaire or two and attach them to a ship that is friendly to use as a scuff carrier? Yes. Yes, indeed. But you don't really need a Legionnaire. You could just buy chairs and put them in your ship, right? I guess you got life support on the Legionnaire. Wish there was a website with all the ship models to scale so we could compare. You mean like the Star Jump ship viewer? Could CIG introduce a ship that transports larger vessels like a reclaimer focusing on long haul speed over stock ships? A ship to transport the reclaimer? Yo, that's a big ship. Who are you, Exhibit? You just trying to continue to go? Just keep on putting ships in ships and see how many ships you can get in your ships. Question from Ubuntu. Could CIG be convinced to give cargo ships realistic defenses, turrets without blind spots, better armor and shields? This would make engagement more challenging. I think turrets without blind spots would probably end up making it hard to balance the ships. There are some turrets, but not complete coverage. Better armor and shields though, yes. I think armor is going to play a big part in making these ships more reliable. Ryzen with the question, do you think it would be possible to fit an Argo SRV in the cargo bay of an 890 jump? Yes. In a cargo bay? Maybe the ship hangar. But even that, I think it might be too long for the 890 jump ship hangar. Can you make love to a Banu? We'll have to see if they go Mass Effect with it. Have they shown female aliens asking for a friend? The only female alien I've seen is a Xion. And I couldn't even tell you if this was official art. But it looks convincing. It's the only female alien I've seen in this game so far. The Banu, I believe, changed their sex. That might be the Xion. No, this is Xion. I think the Banu changed their sex, so that doesn't matter as much for them. You were thinking more like, what if there was an NPC supercarrier transporting ships between systems faster with its own onboard economy? That's wild. I don't think they'll make ships that big, unfortunately. Like I said, the Javelin's the biggest we can get so far. It's like 480 meters. So it's not too much bigger than these larger ships. But maybe they'll do something like that. Do you think we can use the top 2 landing pads on the Liberator to land and secure one medium-sized ship like the Apollo? Well, we can always look at the Liberator Q&A and see what they say. That's the best resource you can have for that. See if there's a question for it. Let's see. Largest ship that can be parked in each of the garages. The upper landing pad supports extra small ships, which includes most single-seat combat ships and other single-player ships such as the Prospector. So, no, definitely not medium ships. Maybe you can force one on there, but it doesn't sound like it's made for it. Have they decided if sub-player items will be recoverable or not? They will be recoverable. Covered that in Cargo Design Inside Star Citizen. Last year. Here's a little preview of that. It's been delayed from 324, but this is planned for some point.
Another big thing that we're working on is unique item recovery. This is something that the fans have been asking for a long time, and we're hoping that it's really going to finally resolve this problem of losing items or losing items mid-mission.
It looks like a simple subject, but there's a lot of little things to think about, like people buying some gear, giving to their friend and claiming it back. What happens to the version that was given to their friends, or even like if your body gets looted by somebody, how do we want to kind of cope with that?
So one of the ideas that we have running right now is that you would have a lost and found within your hab. So if you're playing, your mission crashes, you lose your progress, but you can go back to your hab, restart that mission, grab that item, and continue on where you left off. And we're really hoping to apply this to subscriber items and other unique items as well.
I think in the long run, we have a lot of plans. Just really trying to build out a feature set that can incorporate a lot of different ships, that can incorporate your teams, that allows you to be more in control. It allows you to try to find the best ways that work for you and your group. And right now, that's the main thing we're working on.
our universe is big. We're going to keep building more systems, more planets, and we really want to find.
That got off topic very quickly, but yes, they're working on a solution for it. The Bengal, you can find it in game, but you can't own it. So, biggest ship you can own is the Javelin. Now that we have the Ironclad from Wildly Coyote, do you think we will get a C3 that will have similar cargo volume? Maybe. Maybe Crusader does larger ships. That's kind of their thing, is transportation. So they might do that, but it might not need to. Has CIG talked about making toilets usable in game? When will we have that? Could make bunker missions more interesting. Toilets are coming with hygiene, which is coming with actor status T2. I think this video should be in here somewhere. See your toilet gameplay here.
Prevented from reaching your item. There's also a power surge where high energy reaches your item and will negatively affect the function of the item. And then there is leakage, which is similar to cloggage, where resources won't reach.
There's your toilet gameplay. Yeah, that'll come with actor status T2 and hygiene, I believe. No word on when that's coming, though. When do you think they will release the Idris as in-game for owners? Shortly after Squadron 42 comes out. You can see keeping the showers with toilets are overkill. I mean, I think they'll handle the same thing. You can shower, you can use the toilet, you can wash your hands, whatever it is. I don't think there's going to be like different types of hygiene. I think it's just you choose whatever is available to you. Like some places there might be a bathroom and not a shower. In that case, you can still lower your hygiene level or without having to like go to a ship with a shower, you know? It'd be dumb if you could only shower for hygiene and then showers are only available in some places. Toilets are dumb. Are we going to make people poop their suits while on sniper recon mission? I mean, go to the bathroom, dude. Why are you pooping with a sniper in your hands? 50 cal? Question from Wavy Gravy. Do you think ships like the Mole will see a gold standard update? 100%. Yeah. Every ship's going to see gold standard updates, and probably multiple of them. Is there a public high-level roadmap to beta? Like a bullet point list of what things are the minimum? That's what they're working on right now. I'm betting it will be out shortly before or during 4.0. Might be something they put out for CitizenCon now that it's taken this long. Question from Wildly Coyote. Will we get food truck modules for the Caterpillar? You want a Big Benny's cat? Somebody had once joked about the Cutlass Purple being a little food truck. I think it'd be fun, but you probably can't make much money from it. Abdi, question, when do you think Bounty Hunting 2.0 will be released? I'm thinking 4.3. Somebody clip that. Maybe 4.4. Possibly 4.2, actually. They could be speeding things up after 4.0, but 4.3 is where my money is, for no reason whatsoever. Other than that, it's not soon. Question from Asa. What feature or mission type or playstyle are you most looking forward to? I am looking forward to data running and trading and brokering data and using it as a commodity and making money from it. That's really cool to me. Question from Ryzen. Last dev update said that 3 ships just entered white box phase. Any idea what they might be? When was that? Last monthly report? 3 ships entered white box? Entered white box? I don't know. That's weird timing. One of them is probably the ship that we saw at CitizenCon last year. Legionnaire's already seen plenty of work, so it's probably not that. You know, I would be really... I almost want to believe that they might be working on the Expanse. Because they were working on refinery ships for a while. Oh, right, the large Mirai ship. That's probably one of them. Last monthly report. We get these every week. In fact, we might get one of these this month, or this week for June's monthly report. And these monthly reports during the summer are juicy, folks. This is when a lot of the heavy work is going into the stuff we're going to see at CitizenCon. So if you enjoy those, make sure to drop by on Friday. We'll be doing a review of the monthly report together with basically what we're doing here today. We'll be taking references from other pieces of footage and stuff that they've talked about in previous years or months and connecting it to the monthly report to figure out what's going on. But here in the last one, they mentioned, 3 ships entered the white box stage. What the frickin'... So the Mirai big ship the Crusader, possibly Anvil, possibly RSI big ship. I don't think it's RSI. I think it's either Anvil or Crusader. And something else. Who knows what? Please be the Expanse. Speculation, but do you think if you own something like a merchantman, would the Banu have a higher opinion of you? I really don't know that one. I don't think so. I don't think they're going to do it based on your ships. What I do think they'll do, though, is the aliens in this game have their own languages. They've already been developed by a professional linguist. In fact, oh man, what's his name? Freaking hell. Got to interview one of the guys who was working on these languages. They are very well developed. They're full-on languages. You can learn them yourself, and you can read them, you can write them, you can learn them. There is a whole alphabet. They actually put content out in these languages so that you can break codes and stuff. And in the game, you will come across times where there might be puzzles, there might be hazards, there might be items or loot that you find when you're exploring, or you might run into NPCs that speak these languages. And just like in No Man's Sky, when you know that language, it gets you a little bit of ups with them, you know, builds your rep. So I think there will be that. But I don't know about them seeing your ship and reacting to it. Pie vs. Cake asked, is there any advantage to having the old MPUV cargo versus the new one with a tractor beam? No advantage, but I don't think there's any reason to get rid of it for the other one. They will all be modular and the same model at some point. Question. Good vibes. Tomato. What do you think they will show at CitizenCon that they didn't show last year? Nix. Probably some economy stuff. Some better, more... you know what? Actually, where we are now in CIG's marketing era does kind of make me feel like we might see another CitizenCon 2015 kind of thing. Which, for those who don't remember, was the first sort of group session they tried to put people through. So they got together. Oh yeah, this is what Star Citizen used to look like, by the way.
On that landing pad for a period of time. If you don't claim it after a while, they'll be put back in the hangar, basically. So, let's get our merry band of brothers together and head to the Constellation.
Look at what Crusader used to look like too. It was just a JPEG in space.
One of our over here.
So yeah, they basically had a multi-crew sort of session going on.
So we have
combat, exploration, ship flight, all that stuff. But you know what? Am I wrong? Is this the wrong one? Am I thinking of 2016? Is Gamescom 2015? At the end of this whole thing, though, they did tease the Idris, which was kind of cool and very unexpected. But yeah, I think we might see something like this at CitizenCon because they're at this point where they're trying to sell the game itself. Both Squadron and Star Citizen, they're clearly trying to build a game package, almost vertical slice of what they want to do. And I think with 4.0 coming out, this is the most important year for them to really sell that. So I think we could see a multi-crew demo that shows off... probably just the gameplay we're getting right now, and maybe a couple of new things from next year, but they do a better job of setting expectations with CitizenCon now, in my opinion. Any tips for new players trying to choose an org? There are so many, almost too many. It's a bit overwhelming. It is. The top tip I can tell for you to join a new org is to join ours. The easiest thing when you want to join an org, Jeez. I mean, to just choose one straight out of nowhere is really just picking from a list. But I would say find people you like in the community and then see what org they're in. The whole point of an org is just to have people to be able to call on when you need. You don't need to have an org that's incredibly professional unless that's the gameplay you're into. The most powerful part of having an org is just having a central place of people that you know play Star Citizen and keep relatively up to date and that you can call on when you need them. We do have, our group is like that. GII is all about trying to build a safe and collaborative place for people who don't want to do more of the piracy and kind of just attacking other player stuff. You can do piracy PvE, but we don't allow non-consensual PvP. And we focus on all kinds of gameplay. Mainly our thing is to make sure that the game is easy and understandable for players. So if you would like, gii.app, or you can use the command in chat, !org. That'll pop it up. You get to this website. You can sign up with us, check it out. You like it, you can stay. If you don't, you can leave. But you can join up to like 10 orgs. So don't feel like you're locking yourself out if you join, when you can also leave at any time and join other orgs. Just search around, find the group you like. Oh, I think Justin said, like, so the Terrapin and other exploration-focused ships have a more important part for exploration or scanning. I think we already have that, to be honest, Justin. The only thing we're really missing from exploration is the ability to share markers, to place and share markers in the map. Once we have that, you can go out and explore and find something and sell it and make money. They've already built out the locations. They've got derelict ships being spawned in. They're starting to do things like abandoned space stations. You have minables and salvageables that you can find through exploring and sell a location to other folks. There are ways to experience exploration. I think it's just a matter of getting the supporting tools in there for it. When do I think Star Citizen will release? Like a commercial release ready? Probably 3 years from now. 2027, 2026, late 2026. Not to harp on the big ship idea, Carpathian, thank you for the super chat. But does, it was up here, but does a supercarrier design like the much cleaner Spider concept you showed seem interesting? That could be cool, but Spider is like hundreds of kilometers, I think. That'd be freaking huge, man. Carrying large ships is cool, but I don't know how viable it's going to be in this game for certain situations. Do I think Port Olisar will be a part of Pyro? No, I think it would be weird if they moved it from Stanton. But I don't know how they would send it off in lore, really, or include it in the game afterward. We'll have everything here, everything show here by the end of the year is not a good expectation to set. It is not. I'm actually quite surprised that he said that. He first said, hopefully we'll have almost everything here by the end of the year. But he probably should have stopped there. I believe he then said that there should be everything that you see here by the end of the year. And I don't think that's true. I think there is some stuff that he was maybe just kind of glassing over there. Because there are definitely things in that CitizenCon that I wouldn't expect this year. Like control surfaces. Maybe they'll get control surfaces in with 4.0, but they still have to rebalance for master modes. I can't see how they would get that in by the end of the year. Or Maelstrom. Be surprised if Maelstrom's in. Thinking of getting Star Citizen, anything you should think about before purchasing? Probably what you're looking for out of the game. If you're looking for something that's going to take the place of like your main game that you play for fun and just hop in, hop out, it might not be ready for that. And if you want a stable game that does not screw you over with glitches and instability at times, don't do that either. This is very much still a game that you get into because you want to experience what they're building as opposed to finding your regular game to play. Some people are cool with it. Some people like this as a regular game to play, and they can totally do that. Not saying that's impossible, but I think for the average person playing a video game, it's still pretty rough to just kind of jump all in on. And also, you know, everybody has their own idea of what the gameplay should be. Sometimes it's being worked on, sometimes not. So I would also check out where that kind of gameplay is in development if you're interested in it. Next free fly will be in November, but they may do one before. This is not likely though. I think they do a free fly for the Foundation Festival. I'm pretty sure they do one either in July or August. How is the looting experience in the new inventory system? I actually don't know. I haven't been able to really see 324. But it doesn't seem like it's going to be too great if you're trying to get stuff into a cargo box, unless they come up with some kind of a workaround for that. Ever played Wing Commander? I haven't, but I want to play it on stream at some point. Justin asked, the current Imperator we voted in, Leilani, was one who focused on tech and AI. Do you think drones or AI blades will be a thing anytime soon? Nah, I doubt they're going to develop the game based on that. I think those two things live a little separate right now. I actually don't think 4.0 will be a good time to bring friends into Star Citizen. I would wait probably a patch or two after 4.0 to really start bringing folks in, or even asking them to try it. And that's the current outlook. 4.0 might drop and we might be like, oh, wait a year. It's always wait 1 year. Come back to me in a year and I'll let you know. Do I think SC will have the player base to make the universe feel alive with players? I do. Question is, will the tech be able to support it? Can we get enough servers in a system to have 1,000+ players in a single star system that feels alive? They need to get control surfaces in ASAP. Balancing ships without them will mean there'll have to be another pass on every ship again. Brother, I think there will be. There will definitely be a pass on every ship again. But I agree, I think control surfaces need to come in soon. The sooner they get those limiting factors in on piloting, the sooner people understand whether or not they want to fly ships. Is there room for solo players in SC? Oh yeah, the star systems are huge. Solo players have plenty of places to go. As far as getting to experience everything the game has to offer, no. Solo players will not be able to experience everything the game has to offer, unless you're willing to go and fly with other players. You simply won't be able to do... A solo player cannot control a mole, right? You can't do the mining and the flying all at once. You can go back and forth, but that's... I don't think that's all the game has to experience. You can't fly an Orion and crack rocks while you're tractoring them into the maw. You can't use a reclaimer to scrape a hull while you're also cracking the ship. There are things that you can do as a solo player, but it's going to be very heavily neutered by the fact that you are a solo player. Question. I see question from Monstratus. What Star Citizen chair are you and Mrs. Tomato looking to get from Monster Tech? I don't know. I don't know. Interestingly enough, Monster Tech trying to ship things here is a little difficult. So like, as part of our partnership with Monster Tech, they might want to send us a chair. But once that chair gets to Turkey, there is a chance that whoever stops it at customs asks us for like 100% import tax on it. So it's a risky endeavor for us. It might be something that we wait until we go to the US for and then come back with the chair. Or England. Question from Good Vibes. How far do you think they are on building interiors? It's been a year. I don't think they've made much progress on it, because I think the people who are working on it were also working on UGFs, and we still don't have everything we want with UGFs. If you look at the overall plan, these are the distribution centers, by the way. So this should be a little demo here. Yeah. No, not this one. This was one of the earliest looks we got at distribution centers before they were called distribution centers. You'll see in the bottom corner here, they are actually called new underground facilities in this video, and I'll explain why in a second.
You can land on landing pads. We're thinking about how, the function of the place. So as you can see, it's quite a formidable structure. Hangars on either side, landing pads, so you can move your cargo back and forth. But for us, we're going to just land, hopefully, on the top. Oh my god, I am really butchering this flight. Whoa, there we go. Okay, so let's get out of this Pisces.
So this is all pretty recognizable, right?
Okay, so we're in now, kind of our lobby.
This is
we'll
what
get into.
this is what the distribution
is.
centers look like right now.
This is when you first turn up to the UGF.
Branding and all
and
that.
The rep is, rock bottom. You're going to come here first. And this is kind of the introduction to whatever company owns the UGF. And you'll be getting some missions from in this place, but you can see it's quite going for that brutalist structure, but having all this glass kind of makes it so you can kind of let the outside in a way. And you can see by looking out.
Right. So the reason that this is all very underground focused, even though we're looking at basically what we have as distribution centers, is because there are parts that are not quite in the game just yet that are parts of these facilities.
Area. And this is where we're going to have some weirdness, and then it clips into our main top of the elevator room, which you can see over there, which is lovely. Let's just make our way through. So this is the top elevator room. Again, there's kind of access to the outside, there's access to side rooms and other rooms from here. But essentially, this is where you're going to be in order to get downstairs.
So we recognize this room, right?
You have to come to a room like this. I'm just going to kind of walk you through it and go to our cargo office to do things. So in we go. So this is our version of our cargo office. So you'd get delivery missions from here. You could...
This is kind of like what we have. It's just a little bit formatted differently.
Buy items. But a lot of our rooms are going to feature this kind of door with pedestrians on either side, and that's just so that we've got that kind of functionality throughout the space where, things will be moving around and really the pedestrians want to be out of the way type of thing. Let's just have a look into the space station tower.
All right, skipping forward a little bit. This is the part that we don't have yet. Elevators in this room.
Small.
And they will take you down. Look at how far down you go here.
Now the depth of the the first sub-level is going to change in every UGF. That's going to be procedurally generated, a lot like the rooms as well. Oh, and the elevator's just kind of moving back up. Now you could take the cargo elevator down, that's fine, but that's going to be fully automated, whereas these pedestrian elevators are going to be more independent. So
you have this whole underground section, which is basically just tunnels and control areas. There are important logistics rooms, coolant rooms for servers, all kinds of stuff down here for players to explore and run missions throughout and just spend a lot of time in. The whole point of these is that you're supposed to go down here and do a bunch of gameplay and not come back up for a while. So when you talk about the idea of you don't want to quantum travel between a planet multiple times to do gameplay, you don't even have to leave the planet. You could just come down to one of these underground facilities and start running little cargo missions and stuff. But these are what people have been working on instead of building interiors. So I don't know what's going to be happening with building interiors.
Now, when the rooms are this big, we can do a bit more with them. So there's an area.
Do I think they might release Pyro at this year's CitizenCon? They're aiming for earlier. We'll have to see what happens.
Maybe even some control points. So what if this bridge, I know it's a little blurred over this chasm, what if you could retract?
Can you use the medical bed in the Pisces Rescue as a respawn point? Yes. Sounds like it.
That's not for me to decide. For you as the
and then I'm going to finish things up here. Guys,
we're just gonna...
I'm just about done, but here is a look at what they wanted to do with building interiors.
Let's start with rooftops. Now, up until now, we've largely designed our cityscapes to be more of a backdrop to the landing zone. We have the social space generally in the middle, and then the cityscape goes around it. And they've been designed to give the best composition, to be interesting to fly around, but we've not really thought about designing these buildings from the inside out. So what we're looking at here is some potential concepts for what could be interesting landing spaces that drives the architecture of the building. with landing pads, it doesn't necessarily need to be on the top of the building. It could be, halfway down or lower. So imagine, you're in the lower parts of the city, and then we'd open up these additional play spaces. And as you can see here, it's not just the landing pad, it's the gameplay space that goes along with it too. Now, it doesn't necessarily need to be a single building. Imagine there is a network hub that services a few different buildings.
I do think this is probably what they're going to do with the other areas on RCorp. Instead of having a full landing pad, you have kind of these hubs of locations.
So what we're looking at here is maybe like a transit hub where the player could land, get on some transit, and then that would lead to some buildings. Okay, so maintenance spaces. So these could be really interesting in terms of player interaction. They could be dealing with the power or the maintenance of the building. And then also you could have technical spaces. So these would be more for technicians. It could deal with the data or the communications. And what we're looking at here is potential some, gameplay puzzles where the player has to work their way inside the main. So moving on to residential. So there's a huge amount of potential here. What we wanted to do with residential is two things. One, explore investigating the potential player housing. So with that, we want to be able to create a variety of interior layouts. And also we want to explore a variety of architectural styles. So when we're looking at potential housing layouts, we wanted something fairly modular in a way in which we could create a variety of combinations. So whether it's living spaces or habitation spaces or social spaces. And also here we want the players to eventually be able to populate the player-owned habitations that you see here. And these would be focused on other landing zones. So imagine you come across these in Area 18, or it could be when we come to Terra. And also, like I said, it could be informing future player-owned habitation architectural sets. Now, outside of the living quarters, there's also the social spaces just outside. And we want these to be more than just the corridors that we're seeing in the game right now. So these could be multi-layered social spaces. And these could also inform advanced traversal routes for the player to be able to get inside these habitation rooms.
Investigation
So as we're
mission?
talking through various architectural styles, what kind of residential, we're moving into the commercial area. So what this means is it means we can look at areas that are more gameplay focused outside of player habitation. So when we're talking about these could be office blocks, these could be corporate owned. Inside here, there could be corporate wings, there could be manufacturing, there could be office spaces. And what we try to think about with these, it's more than just a flat room. There should be advanced traversal, it should be multi-tiered. So outside of the commercial offices, we've also got like restaurants. Start talking about the lobby. So as I said before, these are going to be access points to the player, but also we can do more than just a standard foyer that we're seeing in the game right now. So this sort of space we're seeing here is, imagine there's an underground transit network, and that transit station feeds a network of building lobbies. So these could be social spaces, these could be really good combat spaces. They could have access to mini restaurants or bars or facilities. And we're just showing that in a variety of art styles. So one's a fairly low end, one could be fairly high end, but the infrastructure is the same. So as we're exploring art style opportunities, this then drives where it would be appropriate. So some would be more appropriate in somewhere like Area 18, some would be more appropriate in somewhere like Horizon, and obviously some would be more appropriate for future landing zones like Odessa or Prime. And also when we're talking about lobbies, now finally we're going to talk about the underground now. This is, I think...
Can I just geek out a little bit that the fact that he mentioned as his future landing zones Odessa and Prime? Those are the landing zones in the Magnus and Terra systems, which are two of the most exciting systems in my opinion. So... at least on the art side of things, maybe they are thinking about stuff that far ahead.
One of the coolest spaces. So rather than just focusing on the positive axis of the building, we're going to look at the underground. Now, what this does, it means we can access a whole area of play space that doesn't need to be contained inside the building. So within a lobby, we want the player to start to traverse down into these spaces, and these could be underground transit networks. They could be abandoned underground transit networks. This then could drive potential racing opportunities. So when we was doing this, we thought, oh, it'd be really cool. Like, what would it look like if there's an underground street race going on there? Also, there could be traversal opportunities. Like I said before, if the player wanted to go into one building, down, and then through, and then up into another building, what would that traversal network be like? Especially if we're thinking about if it's an older part of the underground of a city, maybe it's less used, people have built up. That would instantly inspire a whole bunch of traversal and investigation missions there. Or maybe there's an old aqueduct or an old infrastructure underground. This could be perfect for underground street racing or other racing opportunities. So in a nutshell, what we looked at is a blue sky investigation into a much larger initiative. So we're seeing it a little bit now with the redo of Lorville. That's turning into a much bigger cityscape.
Yeah, so Lorville getting redone was the first step on this. They're going to have to redo ArcCorp, but I do think that Microtech and Orison have already been built with this in mind. So they have to update the buildings, but not as many as they would have if they weren't planning this out further along.
And what that means is every city in the game is ready for these building interior spaces. Now, one thing...
Okay, maybe they don't need to update ArcCorp. I could have sworn they did.
To note is the cityscapes are probably going to change a little bit. Just from an initial investigation, we found our buildings are quite small.
Okay, there we go, yeah.
So expect to see the skylines go through a period of transition, but that's cool because that means we're designing the inside of the buildings and then we'll redo the architecture to fit to that. So I think it's going to be super positive for the game.
This is going to be big, yeah.
So just in case we was thinking it's all just blue sky concept, actually we're going to start full production on these spaces right at the end of this quarter. Which
they did start working on them, but I don't know if they continued. I think that they might have been pulled off to work on the UGFs more. Or it could be that the art people are fully in on these and they still have to get the sandbox teams on them.
So, what did we learn this week? Well,
and you can find really the only footage we have. I think it's this. Yeah.
Continues there.
This shows us the only footage we have of the building interiors work they've been doing so far.
Also in white boxes, the pre-production blockouts for a variety of building interior modules that will fit inside the tower.
This is Q1 last year.
Skyscrapers of New Babbage on Microtech, being developed and tested in situ simultaneously to work out and discover anything developers might not have considered or recognized as necessary in the original mandate. The idea here is that once the player lands, they would enter this particular interior from the very top, encountering a lobby and expected elevators. Then, after a brief trip down, emerge into a number of different interior modules such as block of player apartments seen in the example here.
Straight up player apartment blocks. That's pretty crazy. Somebody asked in chat, you can earn an apartment? Yes. That'll probably be a big part of cosmetic customization and stuff. And overall just having a home. Whether you want to live in a ship, in a city, in an outpost, they're building them. And somebody asked about server meshing and how many players can play in the server meshed environment. Nobody really knows right now. Hopefully it's 1,000-2,000 in a system, but we don't know. We'll have a better idea once 4.0 comes around. And finally, I saw one more question. Since Terra is designed to be the starter zone, do you think it is a requirement for 1.0? I'm hearing rumors it's not going to be the starting zone. I thought it should be, but it might still be Stanton. I do think Terra should be in 1.0, but I don't think it will be, unfortunately. It's a pretty big endeavor. It's a lot of planets, so probably not.